Hi, I'm Patricia Greenberg. I'm thrilled to have with me today Caroline Leavitt. She's the New York Times bestselling author of Pictures of You, This Is Tomorrow, Cruel Beautiful World, With or Without You, and nine other novels. She's the co-founder of A Mighty Blaze, a book critic for People, and she has a column blog called Runs in the Family in Psychology Today. Welcome, Caroline.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm absolutely thrilled.
I found you through the Ethel, which is it's kind of a little bit of everything through the AARP, and I read your article, Six Things Women Over 60 Are Told They Shouldn't Do, but They Should. The key message is that you should feel free to ignore. So that
Right,
just is reminiscent of you shouldn't wear this over 30, you shouldn't do
right.
this, and we want to throw that out. But I tracked you down because aging can be fun and funny. For many, it's not, and I'm on a mission to change that. And those of us who are 60 and up are dealing with ageism, and I think everyone agrees it's harder on a woman. But my question is, does going gray, or not going to the dermatologist, not doing the things that to hide our actual age, are they hurting us or are they helping us? Let's discuss that.
I think they're hurting us. I really do. I think that what you need to do is it's so easy to get pushed by popular opinion what to do and what not to do. And I always use my mother-in-law and my mom as an example. My mother-in-law died last year at 101.
Mm.
And to the day she died, she had a big orange bouffant hairdo, and she put on her makeup and she put on these garish clothes because it made her feel happy,
Right.
and she didn't care. And she also had this remarkable, where she would forget how old she was, not from dementia, but just because to her it was like she used to walk around saying, I'm tired of being in this facility with all these old people,
Right.
and they were in their 80s and she was 101.
Yeah. Yeah.
The other thing too about aging is that you're told like what to do, and you're told that when you go in a facility it's the end of the road. My mom went into a facility at 93. She also died at 101.
Wow.
She, for the very first time at 94, fell in love. And it was a real love relationship that lasted until she died. And to me, it was this remarkable gift that, what, it's never too late, because people say, oh, you don't have to do that. In terms of, we're bombarded, or at least I'm bombarded every day with these messages about like 20 things people over 60 shouldn't do. Why not going gray makes you look older? And I always email the people back and say, please don't tell me what to do or anybody else what to do. It's sort of whatever makes you feel okay. If you want to dye stripes in your hair and you feel okay with that, that's fine. Same things in terms of clothes. Fashion always changes. What was once mom jeans is now high fashion.
Right.
If you
Right.
feel good in it, wear it, because I think that's, if you're exuding this energy where you feel good about yourself and you feel comfortable in your clothes, then that's great. Then that is great. Would you agree?
Oh, 100%. And there are people who say, you're stuck in the 80s or you're stuck in the 70s. So what? If that makes you
So
feel happy. That's
what?
what you like to do.
Right.
You want to color
So
your
what?
hair, great. You don't want to color your hair, it's all good. I think what is important is not denying your age,
Right.
embracing it, and that's what you like to do. I really feel when we talk about consistency, I've been doing the same things, whether it's fitness or the color of my hair, consistently for a very, very long time. And that's where when I see people, they go, "You look exactly the same as 30 years ago." And I always say because it's consistent, not because I'm doing
Right.
anything miraculous to stay young, but I found what works for me, and I think it's important. So, I encourage people, don't deny, just embrace, what is it that
Right.
you like to do? And you know, Caroline, I use this example all the time, and I have it in my book. Um, so many people are embarrassed of the way they look in a bathing suit, so they won't go to the beach or they won't go to
Oh,
the pool. And then what happens is you miss out on the experience of
right.
the wellness of it, the beauty of it. It's like, is it more important? And truthfully, nobody's looking at you,
Right.
right? Nobody's saying, oh, that person looks terrible in a bathing suit. They need to leave the beach. That's not what's going on. So you're missing out on all the beauty of life, if you can, and I think we're all guilty of it. We all feel a little self-conscious because
Right.
that's what's coming at us.
Right. Anne Lamott had a great piece she wrote about going to the beach.
Mhm.
And she said, there I was, saggy arms, as older women do have in her bathing suit. And she saw a group of teenage girls and they were snickering at her. And at first she felt like, oh, I have to leave the beach. And then she thought, no, I don't. I want to go into the water. It's warm, it's lovely. She said she just smiled at the girls and she thought, well, you know what? How can I expect them to understand? They're teenagers. They're super aware of what they themselves look like. And I mean, I'm not a beach person, but when we do go, and when we did go, I just wore like board shorts and a t-shirt. And if
Mhm.
anybody said, what, you're going in the water in your clothes? I'd say like, yeah, I am.
Yeah.
And it's
Yep.
great.
Yep. Exactly. You don't have to answer to anybody.
Right,
You mentioned also about sports and fitness.
right.
My area of expertise is nutrition and fitness as we age. And you mentioned in the article that contrary to what we're taught, that older adults need to slow down, there are many people, myself included, that engage in very rigorous sports, marathons, bodybuilding, triathlons, etc. And I think again, with the right training, you can keep that up. There's no reason to stop.
I totally agree. I'm more active now than I was, well, say like 10 years ago. I mean, I do yoga, I jump on a trampoline. I mean, I think you have to understand, maybe you have to go slower. I mean, there are some positions in yoga I don't do and I won't do because I'm convinced I'll hurt myself if I do a headstand. So I'm going very, very slow, and that's okay. But I know people in their 80s who run marathons. I
Yeah,
mean,
so
it
do I.
depends on like what you can do and what makes you feel good and what makes your body feel better.
I
And
use the usual disclosure of, I always say, find out what's the source of your
right,
pain. I think that so many people, as they get older, become frightened and have
right,
medical anxiety, and they're so afraid to get the checkup that it might be very serious or fatal. So find out what it is. It could be something as simple as you're not stretching, that's why your hip hurts. But if
right.
arthritis is there, it's not a death sentence and it's no reason to sit.
No.
You can work with it and you can move with it. So I like what you said. I always feel I'm going to crack my neck if I do a headstand. So I do wall climbs. I put my hands on the floor and I climb my feet up the wall, and I just kind of do that for 30
Oh,
seconds
I'm
a
gonna
couple
try
of
that. Yeah,
times.
there's all kinds
There's
of
all
tricks
kinds
you
of
can
things
do
you can do.
with yoga
Exactly.
to do it. You just do
Yeah,
what feels good for yourself and what your
exactly.
body will tell you. Your body will
Exactly.
tell
And
you.
and I think that um we just have to love our lives. I think we were talking a little bit offline. Like 60 is not the new 40. You're 60, you're
No,
not 40, and
no.
you're 70, you're not 50. I don't care how you look. So it is something to pay attention to, but it is by no means a reason to stop.
Right.
You mentioned about your mother finding love at 94. So
Yeah.
sex and love, lots to talk about here.
Yep.
People are
Yep.
living longer and healthier, and that connection with another person. I love that, lover or hater, I love Jane Fonda. And one thing she
Oh, I
said,
love Jane Fonda.
it's never too late to find happiness. You
That's
can be
right.
85, you can be 90.
That's right.
And so you have a good 5 years together, or in your mother's case, almost 10,
Yep.
where some people have a 40-year marriage and they were never happy.
That's right. That's right. And also, it's like certainly, like as our bodies age, sex changes, but
Right.
there's lots of things to help.
Absolutely.
There are like sex toys, there's
Yeah.
lubricants, there's sometimes just cuddling is
Right.
lovely. But
Yeah.
the thing is, I'm really resistant to the joke about, as you get old, you don't want sex anymore, you don't want intimacy. Yeah,
Mm.
you do.
Yes, you
Yeah, you
do.
do.
Mhm.
Yeah, you do.
Everybody
And why
loves to
shouldn't
be
you? My
hugged
mother
and
did.
touched and mhm.
My mother had sleepovers all the time with her
Yeah.
boyfriend, and I love that. I mean, to me, that's like, and my mother also, she used to flaunt it because she
Yeah.
thought it was wonderful too. She said, "I'm not hiding it. If I want to kiss him, I'm going to kiss him on the mouth," and she
Mhm.
did, and it was
Good
great.
for her. Good for
Yeah.
her. Again, it's that what do you attribute that love of life at that age?
I really don't know because my mother was really difficult. She had a really unhappy marriage and she had mood swings all the time. And when she went into the facility, she was really bitter. And
Mhm.
I think she just had a revelation that, like, okay, this is it. I can either try to make the most of it or just be miserable. And she brightened up, and she went to a party they were having, and she met this guy, and her whole life changed. Her whole life and her outlook, and it was wonderful. It
Amazing.
was totally, totally a wonderful old age.
That's what I was going to say. What a wonderful way to spend the
Yeah.
last 10 years of your life.
Yep.
And,
Yep.
as we all know, people are living longer and healthier than ever. And one of the key elements of aging well is not to be alone. We know
Right.
loneliness is the new
Right.
sitting or the new smoking. It's analogous to all these conditions that we know now are very harmful. So in any way that you can't, who are we to say that somebody's relationship is not good for them because the
That's
person's
right.
younger or the person's not what you had in mind for your parent?
Right.
It's not your business.
That's right.
And I just want to talk a little bit on the side about facilities.
Right.
Everybody loud and clear, listen up. There's the proverbial old age home. There are 55 and up communities. There are apartment buildings that just have older people and maybe a community center. Whatever works for you, a condominium in Florida or Arizona. But make sure whatever choice you make is that there's something social for you to do. That's
That's right.
really the key. So moving into somewhere that causes you to be even more alone is not good.
That's right. That's right. And the interesting now is that I've been noticing more and more organizations coming together for older women. It's not just the Ethel, the AARP
right.
newsletter. There's Revel, REVEL, which is this organization for women 60 and up in the New York City area. And they have meetings, they have Zooms, they have classes. It's really, really important to stay social and to have people in your life.
And again, I say that this takes a lot of strength and a lot of fortitude. But
Mhm.
sometimes when you get older, you have to buck your family's wishes. You have to buck
Oh,
tradition.
yeah. Oh,
And
yeah.
maybe culturally, in your culture, it's not appropriate for you to go running around with a guy 10 years younger than you, or too bad. You know what I mean?
Too bad. You're happy, do it.
Yeah, you're happy, do it. Exactly. So, Caroline, we all have the stereotype of the older adult in our mind, that terrible image of frailty, inactivity, grumpy, not a productive member of society. Many of us see ourselves that way due to a lifetime of conditioning.
Right.
That that's what we see. Oh my God, I'm 65. Now I'm going to be viewed as an old, crotchety, infirm person. So again, let's discuss shaking that off. Just getting it
Yeah, you have to shake that off. I mean,
right.
it's even worse if you're in the working world. I know when I had a job when you hit 50, especially if you were a woman, you were pastured out. So there
Right.
was a lot of pressure about that. But there is that people can think whatever they want about me when I'm on the subway or when I'm walking in the city. They can think whatever they want,
Right.
but it doesn't have. I don't have to let it in.
Right.
I know I'm not a. I might be old, but I'm not a crotchety old lady. And if somebody says something like this, you don't have to. You can respond to it in terms of like, no, I'm not. I feel great. I'm doing great. And I think it's resisting the pressure is really hard because we are bombarded with it every day from the media and from other people, and also just the way people look at us. I walk down the street.
Yeah.
But again, you've got to work on building that feeling from within that who you are at this age is fine. It's absolutely fine. And, grasp for pleasure. And it's an interesting thing about being old that I've noticed is that life has actually become more meaningful to me because I feel like I don't have time for clicks or jealousies or all this other nonsense. I just want to have time for my husband, my son, the people I love, my friends, and the work I love, and whatever I can do to make the world a better place. The rest is sort of, who cares about being in style or, what the latest restaurant is or any of that stuff. It doesn't matter anymore.
Right. Right. And I always use this and I write about this a lot, that your peers are your best advisors.
Yes.
Right? Is to find, I always say one or two good friends is all you need. And
Right. That's
you
right.
and you are allowed to have a life separate from your spouse. You're allowed to have
Hmm.
interests.
Yeah, that's right.
Give yourself that permission to have interests outside of what traditionally your family. I too, I have my husband, my daughter, I have stepchildren, And so, we try to give ourselves, give everybody a little bit of time, not everybody. And I just feel like I've reached a point, if I don't feel like doing something, I don't.
I
And,
don't, right.
if you don't like it, there's nothing I can do about it. And it's also nobody else's business. But this idea of not wanting to be around other old people,
No, no, no.
is, if you could find a way to be around your own age, be around people who are older, and be around people who are younger, I think is most ideal. No matter how old you are, you can learn something from somebody else. You can learn
That's
from young
right.
people and you can learn from older people. I have always enjoyed being around older people and hearing their stories. I liked when my
Yes.
grandparents told the stories
Yes.
over and over again.
Yep. Yep.
um, of and even more so with my husband's mother lived in the house with us until she was 103. She passed away.
Wow.
So
That's
it was
incredible.
very interesting having her here. I just loved it. I'm here speaking with Caroline Leavitt about aging well. Is a writer, columnist, and commentator who, in my opinion, is just getting started. So I want to, and you can visit her at Caroline Leavitt, CarolineLeavitt.com. You can also email me at patriciagreenberg.com for the information. Caroline, you've written several books. Is this late in life? It's a full career, midlife. How did this all come to be? And more importantly, how does your age inform your work now?
Well, I always knew I was going to be a writer, and I was always told as a little girl, no, 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 your job is to be a wife
Mhm.
and a mom. And if you want to have a job, you can be a school teacher or a nurse because those are ladies' jobs.
Right.
And I was just determined. And when I was 28, I published my first novel, and I just kept writing and writing and writing and writing and never giving up. And my last two books, actually, um, I've been writing more and more about older people.
Okay.
And Cruel Beautiful World was a lot about my mom. Its main character was an older woman who didn't want to go in a facility, and she did, and she fell in love. And I was really surprised because, usually they tell you, write younger characters, but I was surprised that that was the one character that all the critics loved. I mean,
Interesting.
that was like they said, like, oh my God, this is like so fabulous. And a film company actually said, oh, we want to make a film of this, but just of her part, just of this older woman's
Yeah.
part.
Yeah.
And the book I just sold is also has a really one of the main protagonists is an older woman in her 70s, because I find it's important and it's interesting, and I think it's great. I mean, in terms of like how I'm positioned, I'm really lucky in that I have books behind me, and I have the New York Times, and I have some prizes. And on the other hand, I also am out there in the community with I co-founded a Mighty Blaze, so people know who I am through that, and they know I'm active in the community, which sometimes is more important than just writing out a book. But I've reached a point in my age where I feel that, you know what, maybe I'm never going to be a New York Times bestselling author again, or maybe I won't sell well, or maybe I won't, but I don't care because I'm passionate about the books I write. I hope people will read them. If they don't, I'm going to still keep writing, and that's what keeps me going. I no longer have that driving, fierce, cutthroat ambition I had when I was 20, because I guess I realized it doesn't matter. I mean,
It
how
doesn't
does
matter, and you don't need it anymore
I
because
don't need it anymore. What does it
right.
matter?
I'm so like I said, I'm so impressed with what you're doing because I was a later in life. I write nonfiction and cookbooks, and now I'm kind of dabbling in fiction. Um,
Oh, I love it. That's great.
Caroline, I want to mention to you that I researched this a lot, and the demographic of the bulk of the population right now is between 55 and 70.
Oh, that's
And this,
interesting.
so your audience, there's a broad base in order for you to, for people to want to read about this. I too hear over and over again, working in media, about age. Well, your lead character has to be in the 30s. I call it the
They
Hallmark movie model. And
don't.
there's so much out there now for all of us. And
Yeah.
yeah, and we want to relate to it when we're reading. There's
Yep.
getting lost, and then there's also relating to what we're reading. Um, I you do have a wonderful, your work has appeared in New York Magazine, Salon, The Manifestation, The Millions, Lit Hub. I'm looking at this, Poets and Writers, The Daily Beast, more. And you are a New York Foundation of the Arts Fellow and a Goldenberg Fiction Prize winner, two-time Sundance Screenwriters Lab finalist. So you're doing screenplays?
Um, Hollywood keeps breaking my heart, but yeah, I
Yeah.
just, I've had options and options. And at one point, actually, I think this happened when I was in my 50s. I said to a producer, look, I will write the script. And he said, have you ever written a script before? And I lied and said, yes. And he said, okay, I'll give you 6 weeks. And I wrote a script. He called me up and he said, you know what? The script is terrible, just terrible. Why should I allow you to write it? I said, well, if you teach me, I'll do it for free. So he taught me. And I think that's an important thing to realize, that as you're aging, you got to have new things,
Yes.
like new challenges, new things that excite you. You can't, I mean, my husband and I are never going to retire, mostly because when my husband's father retired, he died. I
Yeah.
mean, he had nothing to do.
Right.
And we have a lot of friends who have retired and they're not really doing anything. So I
Right.
feel like you've got to have something to do. Retire if you hate your job, that's fine. Or if you want to do something else, take something up. Become a painter or write or take up a sport or whatever. I really feel that that's really instrumental to feeling good about life and about yourself. Also, it's a great way to meet people.
Yeah, and I was going to say, alluding to what you were saying earlier, when you're young, you have to be aggressive or you're not going to get ahead. You have to
Right,
stand out. You
right,
have to be the early
right,
bird. You have to be the loudest person in the room, so to
right.
speak. That turns on you when you're behaving that way in your 50s and 60s and
That's
beyond.
right.
Nobody
That's
wants to be
right.
around you.
That's right. That's right. That's exactly right. What works when you're young does not work when you're older. It's you got to be different. And I think that realization that what's important is really, really valuable, and it helps you through life.
I keep saying my new mantra is, instead of aging, I shouldn't say instead of, we talk about aging gracefully, and that's sitting in the corner and behaving. I
No.
I want to age peacefully. I want to
Yes.
be at peace with everything I'm doing, all of my decisions. So whether it's going to the beach in a bikini in my 60s,
Hmm.
or getting on a train and traveling around the world, or staying home and learning how to paint, that's to me being at peace. That's to me learning. And also, it's like you don't have to spend every waking moment being worried about your health. At some point you have to
Right.
say, this is where I'm at, this is my
Right.
level of fitness, this is what I weigh, this is what my, get your baselines taken care of. And just say, okay, this is where I'm at today. Acceptance is key, right? It's the number one
Yes.
thing.
That's
um,
right.
of Caroline, what do you have coming up now?
Well, I sold a book
Okay, very nice.
last year called Days of Wonder, which it's now in edits. There's a few more
Okay,
steps. So I don't have a publication date yet.
okay.
So while I'm waiting, I started another book.
Mhm.
And so I'm doing that. I'm doing a lot of stuff. I'm actually working with scripts a little bit more
Good.
again,
Mhm,
and working with the plays. I've started doing yoga, which is something we talked about
mhm,
before,
mhm.
which is wonderful. And I want to say that I do what I call quiet yoga, which is
Okay.
my way of saying I'm doing it in very baby steps,
Mhm.
because I can tell just from doing like Warrior Two that I'm not in the shape I should be. So I'm going to be very gentle with myself, and I'm just excited about what's going to be ahead. I don't know what it's going to be, but I think whatever it is, it'll be meaningful.
Fantastic. You have such a wonderful attitude. Caroline, thank you so much for joining. And of course, my last question is always, what do you like about getting older?
I like discovering that what the real meaning is. That was one thing that was brought home even more by the pandemic.
Mhm.
That I realized that it's having a deep, happy marriage is really important to me. Having a relationship with my son, who's now an adult,
Yeah.
is wonderful, and that was actually hard for me. to go from having a little baby
I
to like
know.
a grown-up adult.
Me too. I
Having,
know.
yeah, having work that I love is really important to me. My friends are really important to me. Being kind. And the most important thing for me is actually being able to say no
Hmm.
and not worry about people being mad at me because either I just don't want to do something or I don't have time to do it or I just feel it wouldn't be good for me. Um, it's interesting. It's just, it's a really interesting period of life.
And all the tension goes away, right? Like
But
you
well,
just,
a
yeah,
lot of the tension goes away. I don't really care what people think about me anymore, which used to be constant,
I know.
overwhelming. I could not talk to people, and I feel like I can talk to anybody. Um, that has gone away, like expectations, jealousies, feeling like, oh my God, like what's this other writer doing? Do they like me? That kind of stuff is just, I feel like I don't have time for that now. So I'm not going to give it any time. And it's much better. It's
That's
much better.
fantastic. Caroline, thank you so, so much for being here. Caroline Leavitt, she's the New York Times bestselling author, the co-founder of A Mighty Beast, book critic for People and AARP, and columnist for Psychology Today. For more information about Caroline and her books, because I'm going to go there and buy some, I'm so excited to read your books,
Thank you.
carolineleavitt.com. And of course, you can reach out to me at patriciagreenberg.com for more information. Caroline, thank you. Thank you so, so much for joining us here.
Thank you so, so much. This was a pleasure.